You have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
The symbolism of these purses?
Yeah, it's found all over the world. For example, we'd have to find an image, but there's the earliest image of the figure known as Quetzalcoatl in Mexico survives from the Olmec area of the Gulf of Mexico, and it was found at a site called La Venta, along with a lot of other buried stone artifacts. And it shows a man sitting within the coils of a serpent, and that serpent has a crest on its head, because that's what Quetzalcoatl means. It means a feathered serpent. And that man is holding one of those bags, just the same as the...
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And,
the Sumerian fish man.
The Oannes, the Uanadapa, the originator of civilization in Sumer, ancient Sumer, according to their mythology, he's always depicted holding one of these bags as well. So I find myself wondering, are we looking at the symbolism of some ancient brotherhood, who passed around the world seeding civilizations, and that this was the equivalent of their Masonic handshake or something? This was their badge of recognition, this bag that they carried.
Well, it's just speculation, right?
It's pure
fun.
speculation.
It's interesting.
It's pure speculation.
But so because of the fact that they've accepted that the Mayan temples are aligned with the constellations, have they decided to look at other archaeological discoveries in the same light, or is this something that's being resisted?
There is a specialized subdivision of archaeology which is called archaeoastronomers.
An accepted subdivision.
It's an accepted subdivision. These are archaeologists who've been trained in astronomy, but they've also been trained in the fundamental dogmas of the discipline of archaeology, which is that there can be no lost civilization, that archaeology has already told pretty much the full story of humanity, and that all that awaits is to fill in the details. This is the dogma of archaeology that is taken in from the moment that somebody decides to become an archaeologist. It's part of the training. And actually, if you try and go against that dogma as a mainstream archaeologist, you can kiss goodbye to your career. Any archaeologist who entertains the possibility of an advanced lost civilization around the world more than 12,000 years ago will have no future as an archaeologist. That right there will write him off for the rest of his career.
That's so disturbing. It's so disturbing. If that's true, it's so mind-numbing, because why would you ever believe that we've got it all figured out, where every day they find some new stuff? Did you see the discovery they found recently of a large tooth that's a cousin of human beings?
Denisovan.
Yeah, but really recently, within the last few days.
Very, very recently. Well, this is the thing, you see. Our story is much more complex than we've been taught. And gradually, bit by bit, the evidence is coming out of the woodwork.
Well, the idea that we have all the data of history is just so crazy. It's just not true.
And arrogant.
It's absolutely foolish.
Yeah, it's a very foolish idea, and it shuts us down to the possibilities. I mean, the universe gifted us with these giant brains and this incredible imagination and intuitive faculties as well. We're not only rational creatures, we're intuitive creatures. And all of these faculties should be applied to understanding the mystery of who and what we are. And I think that's one of the mistakes of modern science, is this just chopped out one bit, the kind of alert problem-solving bit, the rational reason, the use of reason and logic, and it's chopped out all the rest, the capacity of humanity to dream, to learn information in dream, to learn true knowledge in dream was revered in the ancient world and just ridiculed today. You want to insult somebody, call him a dreamer, Things have changed so much.
Well, it seems like back then there was so much less information, and now there's so much information. To call someone a dreamer means that you're thinking of nonsense when you should be trying to acquire all the information that we've already discovered, that we've already accumulated.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's about. And again, it's ideology. It's saying that there is nothing of value in dreams. How do we know that? Ancient world felt that there was useful knowledge to be got from dreams, not all dreams. It's in Homer, actually, that he speaks of the gate of ivory and the gate of horn. Some dreams come through the gate of ivory. They're just pleasant fictions, or maybe unpleasant ones, nightmares. Ignore them. They're not important, but others are true tellings, and they come through the gate of horn. And this was a recognized factor in the ancient world. We've dismissed it today. It's regarded as pseudoscience. It's regarded as nonsense. Again, that label is constantly applied to anything archaeologists don't like. Pseudoscience. Right there with the label, they just dismiss everything. They always call me a pseudoscientist, which means a false scientist. And I find that bizarre, because I'm not a scientist at all. I've never claimed to be a scientist. I don't want to be a scientist. I'm a writer. I'm a journalist. I synthesize material across a broad range of disciplines. So how can I be a false scientist, since I've never claimed to be one? But the word is used as a bludgeon or a club to beat an enemy over the head and ensure that nobody listens to what that enemy says.
Yeah, it's just sort of a bulletproof pejorative. You know, you throw that out there and you're immediately dismissed.
Yeah. Sure.
But it's got to be satisfying to you going from that original book, which I became absolutely fascinated by, Fingerprints of the Gods, to slowly but surely over time, more and more evidence being discovered in mainstream science and archaeology that affirms all these suspicions.
Yeah.
And then attached to what Randall has been studying his whole life, it really, the whole thing just sort of unfolds in front of your eyes.
There's a kind of perfect moment in human knowledge unfolding right now. We now have the knowledge of this giant cataclysm that happened 12,800 years ago, which has just not been taken into account at all up to now. And at the same time, and it's almost eerie, archaeological sites are popping up all around the world that cannot be explained by the previous model of history.
Now, with all of this information that you've shown so far, the layer that shows the massive burning of the forest, the impact craters that we found, the nuclear glass, the micro diamonds, all this evidence, the immediate shift of the climate, the mass extinction of a huge percentage of the large mammals, is the impact period, is that considered in mainstream science?
Not
or
yet.
Have they just,
it's
they
considered in
that?
mainstream science because it's mainstream scientists who've presented the evidence. As
all
I said,
the data that you've accumulated and
it
corresponded.
all comes from mainstream science, published in the absolute leading scientific journals.
But you're stitching it together.
What nobody has done yet, I think I'm probably the first person to do it, is to take that evidence and consider its implications for the stories we tell ourselves about the origins of civilization. Very important story. Where did civilization come from? What is it? And that information has not been taken into account at all by archaeologists yet. I hope they will do so in the future. They need to play a very fast game of catch-up to catch up with the science on this and take it into account. But right now, it's not being taken into account at all. You will not find a single archaeological document which takes account of the cataclysm that happened between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago.
Big part of the problem is specialization in science, I think. So you've got, paleontologists looking at the extinction events. You've got, marine geologists looking at sea level rise. You've got glaciologists looking at how the glaciers disappeared. And we're in a position now where we need to begin synthesizing all of this. What's interesting to me, though, is that it almost falls on the shoulders of the mavericks, the synthesizers. And that's kind of really... Right now, there's so much specialization in science that the next phase of it, I think, is beginning to integrate it, to create a coherent model of our past. Because a lot of, like Graham is saying, a lot of the mainstream scientists have this information, right? If we look at this graph right here, and you see how this compares with the graphs we just saw of the climate changes and the ocean level rise, this is as it says, late Pleistocene mortality graph. And this is basically looking at radiocarbon dated fossilized remains of the extinct mammals. And if you look carefully, you'll see that within the range that we're talking about right in here, here's your 13,000 year spike right here.
It's exactly
Right
the
there.
same time period,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
exactly the same as the changing of the temperature, the rising
Yes.
of the sea levels,
Yes.
massive extinction event.
Right. And there it is right there. Every one of these squares represents a fossilized remain. I think 360 or 70 specimens that have been dated.
It seems insanely unlikely to me that this didn't correspond with an impact on human civilization.
It's
Of
very,
course.
It's very clear that it
It's
did.
insane. It seems insane
Yeah.
that it's not like mainstream and consent. I mean, if this is all fact, and obviously it is, how is this not like? How's this is so glaring?
First of
something
all,
happened.
it raises a horrible possibility for archaeology that they have been completely wrong about the origins of civilization. I mean, not just slightly wrong, but completely wrong, because they didn't take account of this. That's a horrible possibility, and it's much better to just try and get rid of the data. I'm not saying that it's a conspiracy by archaeologists. I'm saying it's human nature. If you're invested in a system of ideas, so powerfully invested in it that your own personality is connected to it, you just can't accept it. It's really hard to accept. Almost your generation has to die off before a new generation comes that will be prepared to. Just with old age,
Yeah.
I'm not threatening.
No,
I'm
I know
not
what you
threatening
mean.
an assault on
No,
the
no,
world of
you're not.
archaeology.
No, you're not.
But-
I
but-
said ooh because it impacted. I think you're right.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's the problem, why it's not been taken. And Randall's right. The other problem is the intense specialization of our society. That's one of the strengths of our society. There's also one of the weaknesses of our society, that everybody's really good at one particular thing.
That's the only way it all works out,
That's
because
how
no
it all
one could
works out.
possibly get all this work done.
And it's all we're all interdependent upon one another, but there's not enough comparing notes across the disciplines. And I guess that's where my skills, such as they are, come in. That I've spent my whole life synthesizing data from many different fields, and that's what I'm doing here.
It also, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's a part of the issue is there's no consequence to not considering this stuff. There's no consequence to just ignoring it. They ignore it. They teach what they've taught mainstream, and they still come out smelling like a rose, and everything looks great.
Exactly, and they all keep their jobs. You know?
Yes.
It's
they
really
don't
almost-
annoy their
yeah.
colleagues.
It's almost the opposite of that, because to go here, they're actually, they're threatening their position. They're putting their position in danger.
But I don't understand why they would be, because to me it seems like you would want to say, we have some exciting new data. So
yeah.
this is, now we have to reconsider what we already know.
Yeah.
We already know, about this part of the world, and this is, we already know about the Pleistocene era. We already know about all these different eras. But now we have this new data to consider, and here all it is.
Yeah. They should be excited about it. They should be joyous that there's something here which really could change the whole picture. But that's not the case. It's radically opposed.
Well,
And-
it makes your education look like shit.
Yeah, I'm afraid it does.
It's really unfortunate, but it really does.
You see, this is an area that Randall and I happen to know a lot about. What I wonder is, in other areas that I don't know about, is this same phenomenon at work?
Right.
The kind of knowledge filter, which is
Like-
just shutting us off
In
from
what discipline would that be? Or are you just speculating?
social sciences,
Right.
any area of science, medicine, how things are to be done with medicine, how tumors are to be handled and dealt with. We have a dogma right now that it's chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and every other system is regarded as what? Pseudoscience, generally. But maybe that's a mistake, Maybe we should be considering the possibility of these alternative therapies. Maybe they're better than blasting somebody with highly radioactive material.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's Omni-Shade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.
Well, I certainly think there's some things that we don't know about the impact of nutrition and overall health and meditation and just the impact of stress and well-being and how it plays on health factors. And
Exactly.
I think we're going to learn all that. I mean, I think there's probably more discussion and more focus on that than there is on stuff like this.
Sure there is. Our personal health is important to all of us. And
this is it's kind of a part of our personal health,
you
too.
bet it is, yeah.
It's a part of our understanding of the very environment that we exist in.
Where we came from, yeah, absolutely.
Now, how long did you guys road trip together?
It's about 2 weeks, wasn't it, Randall?
Little shy of 2 weeks.
And what did it entail? Did you guys make a video of it or anything?
There was a lot of video shot, and
Beautiful.
one of Randall's colleagues, Brad, who was with us, shot video along the way, and my wife Santa took photographs, and we've documented all of this very, 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 very thoroughly. But it was an amazing road trip for me. It was the first time actually I've driven a great distance across the continental United States. I've always been in this city or that city and picking up an airplane and going here and there, but to actually drive across this incredible, majestic land was an enormous experience for me, and it filled me with a sense of just how huge America is. I live in this tiny island, Britain, but this giant, the open skies country that they call it in there. It was a great initiation into a beautiful part of North America and a mysterious part of North America. And it was great to do it with Randall because he's been walking the walk in this area for decades, and he knows that landscape like the back of his hands.
Yeah, and for people that are listening to this podcast right now, and this is your first introduction to Randall and Graham, you got to go pause right now and go back to the first one Graham was on, the first one Randall was on. Just do a binge. Just binge listen or binge watch. What are we looking at here?
Well, this is Graham trespassing.
How dare you?
I'm watching in all directions.
You're not supposed to be there?
No.
Well, since the first time I was there, Graham actually referred to this erratic earlier. This was
This is that 18,000-ton boulder sitting above Wenatchee.
So that was the boulder that was pushed by the
it was carried aboard
in the
an
glacier.
iceberg.
yeah.
An iceberg.
Enchained in ice.
An iceberg.
Yeah.
So
An
berg
iceberg,
that was
yes.
this massive rush of water had giant rocks embedded in the iceberg.
Yeah, and to
Yes.
float that, you need an iceberg about the size of an oil tanker.
Yes, and this is sitting 400 feet above the modern day Columbia. So we know that the water was at least this high. Well, actually, it had to have been higher than this because 90% of the iceberg is under the surface of the water.
And how do we know that this rock just wasn't there? How do we know that it was carried by this?
Well, because it's not part of the bedrock. It's sitting on top of the land surface. Like all of these, if we look here, we've got some other...
Do we know where it came from? Do we know how far away it originated?
It's probably come from about 50 miles to 75 miles north of here. It's the type of basalt it has been identified. I don't remember specifically, but when you travel over this land, you see these giant boulders just strewn about.
There's a place called Boulder Park. It's a tourist attraction now. You can go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see there, the size of that. And let's see.
Oh, my God. Yeah. So they just stand out, like out of nowhere.
Yeah, and we know this had to have been transported aboard an iceberg for the simple reason that if it was carried within the glacier mass, like a typical glacier erratic, you wouldn't have those sharp square corners like that. A glacier erratic gets ground off.
Right.
And oftentimes, this thing was transported almost 200 miles from, its likely origin was Mount Robeson, and we didn't get to this one. Mm-hmm. But this is evidence that the flooding was much more extensive than just the Missoula flooding. Because this is, the Missoula flooding that we were looking at was on the west side of the North American continental divide.
I should just jump in there and say that it isn't any longer controversial that there was gigantic flooding in the Pacific Northwest and indeed across the whole range just south of the ice cap. That is accepted now. But the very idea that there was flooding at all was hotly opposed for decades. There was a great American geologist called J. Harlan Bretz, who was the first to document the fact that there had been colossal flooding in that area. And he lived in the 1900s, 1920s. And because he suggested that there had been a cataclysm, of course, he was exiled by his colleagues. Eventually, his data prevailed, and he was awarded the Penrose Medal, the highest award of the geology in America, in 1976 when he was like 96 years old.
That must have sucked for him.
And he said then, he said, all my enemies are dead, so I have no one left to gloat over.
That's what he said?
Yes.
Oh, my God. But it's so disturbing to me that it works like that.
Yeah, it works like that. So
they're demonized.
But what happened, you see, was Harlan Bretz was convinced from the beginning that he was dealing, and this is a very experienced field geologist, that he was dealing with a single humongous flood, which had risen and fallen within perhaps 2 weeks. That was his evidence on the ground, and he was attacked because people kept saying, well, where did the water come from? You know, what's the source of this water? And he said, that's not my problem. I'm showing you the clear, unmistakable evidence of flooding on the ground. Flooding happened. Somebody else go work out where the water came from. And this stuck the whole argument for the best part of 40 years until a compromise was reached. And that's the word that Randall used, Missoula. They said that this flooding was caused by outburst floods from a glacial lake that's referred to as Glacial Lake Missoula. And because the flooding is so extensive, it must have outburst 80 or 90 times to cause that flooding, which completely contradicts Harlan Bretz's view that it was a 2-week flood, one single event. But the compromise was accepted that the cause of the flooding was Glacial Lake Missoula. That is now going to have to be reviewed because of the comet evidence. If J. Harlan Bretz had the information we have today, he would have known instantly what caused that single humongous flood, and that was the liquidizing of a huge area of the North American ice cap instantly, and the floods that followed.
It's so fascinating that the obsessions of a few people come together like this, and you can kind of piece these things together on a podcast. Randall, what is this crazy image you're showing us?
Well, this is actually out of a 19th century text when before catastrophism had been completely exorcised from mainstream geology. And this was Louis Figuier, I think was his name, who speculated that the ice sheets over northwestern Europe had catastrophically melted down. And he had an illustration in his geology text which perfectly captures how these large erratics are actually being transported aboard these icebergs. And you can see the scale of the thing. And this is the kind of, you see whole forests are about to be washed away here. And this image, when the first time I saw it, I thought, well, here it is. This depicts the kind of field evidence that we've been looking at here. So that's why I've included this here, because it helps to visualize what we're talking about. We've got some this was a place that Graham and I visited here, which really spectacularly embodies this whole phenomenon. This is known as Dry Falls Cataract, and it's about 5 miles wide. And I'm going to show you ground photographs and a couple of aerial photographs of it, so you can kind of get the scale of the thing. Now,
great thing is anybody can go there.
Yeah.
This is on the land. It's ours to look at. We can all go and see this. It's an amazing trip to see it.
You could go there, Joe. They would let you in there to see this.
Where were you trespassing?
On that particular shot, that huge 18,000-ton boulder is surrounded by notices which say no trespassing.
They weren't there when I was there a few years ago.
It. So I trespassed. I mean, the thing is made of basalt, and my footstep is not going to do it any harm.
Yeah, I bet you nobody even noticed that Graham had been up there.
So it's not like a private property issue. It's like they're just trying to keep people.
I think it is actually a private property.
Probably
issue.
is because I have noticed from the first time I went there, which was 98, I think. There was no houses on that hillside. Now the houses are moving up the hillside. There's been development and so forth. There was houses pretty much right around it. So
yeah, we're going to overrun it, and there'll be no evidence. You guys got to accumulate your evidence while you can before condos go up there.
That's also
right.
true.
Now you'll notice that there's a series of these alcoves here that these horseshoe shaped.
We're back on the image of Dry Falls.
Back on the image of Dry Falls, exactly. And at some point, somebody's going to be able to see these images, right?
Yeah, well, people could go and Google them online, but they'll see them right now on YouTube if they watch the YouTube version of the show.
If they see the YouTube, okay. So here's a typical Horseshoe Falls of Niagara, which is a modern cataract, receding cataract. And this horseshoe shape is very typical of the way water will erode bedrock. Because water flows faster in the middle of the stream, therefore it erodes faster in the middle and not so much as you get towards the margins. And so it creates this classic horseshoe-shaped profile. And that's what we're seeing here at Dry Falls. Now, this is just one of the alcoves, of about half a dozen of the alcoves that we saw in the map of it.
In other words, this is a monstrously big waterfall.
Yes. Now,
dry today.
Just off to the left of the picture is where, actually, and there's a photograph in Graham's book taken from... Let's go back. We skipped over it. There it is. This is the viewpoint, and this is Horseshoe Falls of Niagara superimposed on Dry Falls, so you can get a sense of the scale.
So Niagara Falls is a tiny, tiny little thing
Yeah.
by comparison with this ancient fossilized waterfall, which dates back 12,800 years. Niagara Falls is the result of 12,000 or more years of work of the river. Dry Falls between Upper and Lower Grand Coulee in Washington State is the result of 2 weeks of flooding.
What?
Yeah. And
For people, try to explain this for people that are listening, because it's probably 10 times bigger plus.
more than that.
How many times bigger?
It's 2.5 times as high. And, well, figure this. The discharge of the Niagara River over the falls is a couple of 100,000 cubic feet per second maximum. The discharge over Grand Coulee was somewhere between 300 and 400 million cubic feet per second, or in other words, somewhere between 10 and 20 times the combined flow of every river on Earth flowing all at once. And the height of this scarp face here, this cliff, is about 400 feet.
Oh my
the
God.
water coming over was about 400 feet deep. So if you were here witnessing this at the peak of the flood, you wouldn't in fact even see a waterfall. What you would see is this massive 10-mile wide turgid river choked with icebergs and debris and whole forests
And that
had
river
been
is
ripped
Randall
up.
flowing at what, 60, 70 miles an hour?
60, 70 miles an hour. What you would have seen here was just a bump in this flood. And then only at the latter stages of it would it actually have been a waterfall. As the water source was dissipating and as the water was declining, you would have the final stage of it being a waterfall. Then eventually the waterfall stopped. And what you have today is this fossilized feature of this massive, and this is only one of about a half a dozen comparable sized cataracts. We didn't get to see Potholes or Frenchman Coulee next time, perhaps.
So many others. I'd urge anybody listening to this, if you can do so, get up to Washington State and go visit Upper and Lower Grand Coulee. It's a stunning landscape. It's a great trip to make, and you can see the evidence on the ground.
And, people don't know about it. We've got, like here, this is Utah. And what you see here is once you begin to understand the cataract formation and you understand the morphology of a cataract, you look at something like this, and what you're looking at is cataracts, extinct cataracts out in Canyonlands, Utah. And they're massively scaled. But no geologists, see, here's the problem. Geologists haven't been focused on catastrophism. What they've been doing, they work for the government, they work for the oil companies. They're more interested in what's down below, the natural gas, the oil, and
That's
stuff.
where the money is.
There's another point. There's another point I'd like to add to that, Randall, as to
Yeah.
why geologists are not focused on catastrophes. Geology is a science, and science, in effect, defined itself as being different from religious superstition. So the notion of the Great Flood that we find in the Bible became a very discredited notion in science, and by association with that, any suggestion of a great cataclysm in the past was seen as superstitious behavior, to be shunned completely by the squeaky clean, shiny new sciences, who must never take that into account. So any geologist who dares to propose a cataclysmic episode is up against that right away, that his colleagues don't want to go there because they're afraid that they're going to be accused of buying into Noah's flood or whatever.
That's so unfortunate.
But it's true, and this is the problem. So there's catastrophism and uniformitarianism. And the prevailing dogma in geology is the uniformitarian dogma, which is basically to say the way we see things in the world today, that's how it's always been. It's
That's
never been
exactly
any change.
So, Randall, what is the mainstream understanding of those formations? Like, what when they look at those
The Utah ones, for example.
gigantic Utah,
I have searched and I find nothing.
they just don't explain it.
They don't
They
explain
just
it.
go, "Oh, look how pretty."
Do you think
Yeah.
the flooding went as far south as Utah?
Not directly glacial. I think what we're looking there has to be torrential rain.
Right.
Torrential-
Which is another association of this impact.
Yes.
Picture this huge impacts on the ice cap. An enormous amount of watery material is thrown up into the atmosphere. Not only water, but also mud. And you get this rain out,
Yeah.
which comes down for a long period after that.
And I'm not necessarily saying that all of that was stripped in one event, because the Pleistocene is basically 2.5 million years. 2.6 million is the latest dating of it. And there's been probably a dozen or 24 ice ages that have come and gone. To me, the evidence I'm seeing suggests that the transition from glacial to interglacial and back again is not a smooth process. In fact, it's probably highly catastrophic. Not necessarily as catastrophic as the event we're talking about 12,800 years ago, but certainly catastrophic enough that were an event of equivalent magnitude to happen today, we could maybe not cause a mass extinction, but we could certainly pull the plug on modern civilization. And so this picture is interesting because what it does is it shows that, you travel over this landscape.
Explain what this picture is and where is it?
Okay, now this is in western Montana, and this is a place called Dry Creek. And what this is just a gravel pit. But what you see here is deposits caused by surging floodwaters moving up tributary valleys, loaded with sediment. And one of the things that a stratigrapher or a sedimentologist looks at is, you notice how they're tilted. You see how the layers are tilted? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's an indication of which direction the water is moving. The tilting goes down in the direction that the water is flowing. So what we see here is massive, turbulent, sediment-laden floodwaters backflooding up a valley, surging, leaving deposits, and then flowing back out, followed by another wave, For 13,000 years, 12,000 years, this material has been laying there, and you see that there's forests growing over it. Okay, people traveling over this landscape don't see what's under their feet, you see. But once you get an outcrop like this, and you understand and you can read what you're seeing here, then suddenly it becomes apparent that the very hills and landscape that we live on, that we've built our cities on and our highways, and that we're playing out all these dramas, that right under our feet is the evidence of previous worlds. You have to understand that what you're looking at there is the debris of a former world that was pulverized by these floods, carried in and deposited, and now a new world has emerged out of that and on top of this wreckage.
Chronic migraine is 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine before they start. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It prevents on average 8 to 9 headache days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
A former world. existed, I believe, an advanced civilization that is memorized in myths and traditions all around the world, that is being ridiculed by archaeologists, but it is insistent, and the evidence keeps on coming forward.
Well, it all makes sense. It really does. It's all shocking and stunning and fantastic, but it all makes sense.
I think it does make sense, and I think it's it's something. It's part of the human heritage. It's something that we all have to get to grips with. Again, this is one of the things I find encouraging about developments in the world today is that more and more people do appear to be thinking for themselves. You know, there was a time when we took the word of specialists. Dr. X or Professor Y said this, it had to be true. That was so, actually, when I wrote Fingerprints of the Gods in 1995. That was the first argument, was the argument from authority. The authorities say this cannot be so, therefore it is not so. And a lot of people just bought that. What's changed, I think, in the last 20 years is that subservience to authority has gone away. It hasn't gone away completely, but we don't trust authority anymore, rightly and properly, because we've been lied to by authority figures, and we know they lied to us, and we saw the evidence, whether it's politicians or big corporations or or the big religions. There's an uprising against this and an assertion of individual will and of individual intellect to inquire into the past. And I think that's why this information now is coming at a time where it's falling on fertile ground. There will still be a lot of resistance to it. We can expect that resistance to be fierce and to go on. But things are shifting in the world, just as our picture of the past is shifting. So our picture of who we are and what we're meant to be doing here is shifting as well.
Have you guys thought about coming together and doing a documentary?
I'd love to do a documentary with Randall.
You guys together, it's a must-do. I mean,
Yeah.
It just seems like the book is, I'm sure, going to be fantastic, but there's going to be people that are just not going to read a book.
Yeah.
Documentaries are so easy. All you just do is open your stupid mouth, lay down,
Yeah.
turn on Netflix, and bam, you can absorb it. Whereas
It might happen.
people are lazy.
It's
hard.
highly visual material, and
So visual.
And
Yeah,
it
that's
should
what I'm
happen.
saying. It's so visual, and the two of you together. We need to crowdfund something.
Can I make an appeal? It's the first time I've ever done this. It's a kind of little
Please do.
pitch. It's a little
pitch?
Okay, I've never asked for this before.
Okay.
But what I'm asking to those who value and appreciate my work and feel that I'm doing something useful in the world, please support my work by getting this book, because that is the best way to put one finger up to the mainstream. Archaeology wants this book to go away. They want it to be forgotten. It will never be reviewed in any mainstream newspaper. It will never be written about. There will be no articles about it, and probably no television coverage either. The only thing that can make the difference is people voting with their feet, and I'm asking that now of people who value my work.
People are huge fans of your appearances here, and huge fans of your work. And if this is the latest and greatest, I'm sure people are going to go out and buy it in droves. So, Magicians of the Gods, you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on your website, you can get it pretty much everywhere.
Yeah,
right?
go to my website, and all the links and the whole background on the book is there. I hugely deeply appreciate the support that my readers have given me. I would be nothing without my readers. That's why every time I do an event, I sit there for 2 to 3 hours afterwards talking to people and signing books, because the readers are the most important people in my universe, and they're who give me strength. Without my readers, I'm literally nothing, and I value and appreciate them. And I'm on a journey across America now, and I'm speaking in many different cities, and the whole program is up on my website on the Talks and Events page.
Well, we'll make sure we tweet that stuff and get that information out, and I'll get that information out for the entirety of the time you're here. Just let me know where you're going to be, and I'll let everybody know when you're going to be there.
Since we're plugging, I'd like to plug. I've got this.
What is that?
Well, it's about a 4.5-hour presentation.
Of course it
full
is.
Of graphics, video clips, animations.
And it's all you?
Yeah.
And what is it? What's it called?
Cosmic Patterns and Cycles of Catastrophe. And we can go to the Sacred Geometry International website. I think Cameron Wiltshire, who you know, in fact, who introduced us, has, I think he's doing a special on it now.
Okay.
Like 33% off or something.
So what is the actual URL of the website?
Well, it would be sacredgeometryinternational.com.
There it is. Jamie's pulled it up right there. So cosmic patterns and cycles of catastrophe.
Yes.
33.33% off. What is that all about?
You'll have to ask Cameron about that.
Is some hidden numerology in there somewhere?
Apparently. And you'll notice coupon code, Magicians.
Ah, there you go. Magicians of the Gods.
That must be a reference.
I think it probably corresponds. So I really think that you guys have to do one of these things together as a documentary. I mean, I think it's just, I think someone out there, someone's listening to this, probably some kooks that we don't want doing this documentary, but there's got to be somebody out there that's legit. We just need to find them and put it together.
Yeah, I want to pay tribute to Randall's work. Randall is a really important figure in this field, and he's very modest, and he's been standing back, and you know, he's not been out there enough. It's time that people understood the fantastic knowledge that this man has, and the ground experience. You can't beat that.
Well, I met Randall in it was early 2000s, right?
When you were at the Punchline.
Yeah, in Atlanta.
Yeah,
which doesn't even exist anymore.
Close
it's gone
to 10
now.
years ago, I think.
It was quite a while ago,
yeah.
And we had this conversation after my show, and we were just sitting down. He was talking to me about the Holocene and all these different impacts, and I remember walking away from. We talked for quite a while after the show. But I remember going, that might be the craziest fucking post-show conversation I've ever had. Because usually, you know, after a comedy show, you have a conversation with people, you know, hey, where's a good place to eat? You know, do you like Atlanta? You know, like normal stuff. And he's just flooding me with information. I'm like, who is this guy?
Well, I remember walking away from it going, wow, I had no idea that Joe Rogan really related to all this stuff, you know.
Oh, I was fascinated.
I was surprised.
Can I add something there, which is I'd like to say something about you, Joe. It's a phenomenon. I travel all around the world, and I give presentations in just countries everywhere. And everywhere I go, people come up to me and they said, Joe Rogan sent us to you. We know about your work because of Joe Rogan. And I see that what you're doing is exploring many, many controversial areas in your show. You're in a position of power, and your listeners, just as my readers are my strength, your listeners are your strength. They put you in a position of power, but you're a person who's using that power for something really good. There are so many people who are powerful in the world of the media who just waste it away on trivia and nothing. You are bringing new information to people all around the world, and I can tell you, because I meet them every time I give an event, you are enormously appreciated.
Well, I appreciate them very much, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate this show, because this whole thing came about without any planning. This show just sort of became itself. It's almost like I would just happen to be there to germinate it or something. And I just try to get out of my own way as much as possible and follow my curiosity. And the beautiful thing about people like you guys is, without you, take away you and Fingerprints of the Gods, take away you, and what are we looking at? I mean, it's very rare when you have two human beings that without them, an entire field of study would be barren of a great deal of its information. I mean, you have John Anthony West and Robert Schoch, and you were obviously a part of all that. And John Anthony West, who's absolutely fascinating.
Fascinating guy.
And another guy, widely maligned, a guy who's ignored. But Magical Egypt is one of the greatest DVD series to this day that I've ever seen in my life. And if you've got the time and the attention span to sit down and watch all of them, it is amazing.
Amazing. John Anthony West is one of my favorite people on the planet.
He's incredible.
Absolutely brilliant researcher. John, more than anybody else, who opened my mind to the mysteries of ancient Egypt. Fantastic work. And
he's a world treasure.
He is a world treasure. He's a great, great, great man.
And I think that DVD series is just one petal, one unfolding of the great flower of information that you guys are presenting. And I think...
And another name I'll drop in there, which is Robert Bauval, the originator of the Orion correlation theory. He's done so much to bring back attention to the importance of the skies in the ancient world and what it means for our understanding of our past. And again, his evidence also points back to this period of 12,800 years ago.
And while we're at it, Robert Schoch really stuck his neck out from Boston University. Really one of the first mainstream scholars that went out on a limb and said, we are absolutely looking at water erosion.
Robert Schoch is a key figure in this field. He's very courageous to be a mainstream academic, to be a professor of geology at Boston. It was John West who introduced Robert Schoch to the notion that the Sphinx might be much older, that the weathering on it didn't fit with the picture of history. And John took Robert Schoch to Egypt, and Robert Schoch went with the data, and he stuck his neck out, and he's taken a lot of criticisms and attacks for it, but he's a very, very important player in this field.
Well, all of you guys are just massively, massively important, and this is such a unique and satisfying object of curiosity for me, at least. When I start thinking about these things, it's almost like little things start firing off in my brain. It's so exciting. I mean, it's horrific to think about the poor people that lived back then that got hit by these massive impacts, and the aftermath of it all must have been insane. But to think about now, in 2015, the slow unveiling of all this data and information, and as it all gets into focus and you try to get a clearer and clearer view of what could have possibly happened in the past, I find it so incredibly enriching and fascinating. It's, to me, one of the most exciting aspects of there's the potential of archaeology.
Yeah.
Just to be able to discover, like, oh, that's what happened. Oh,
it's a kind of aha moment.
Yes.
Suddenly the pieces fall into place, and we understand what we've forgotten.
And again, it cements that statement that you made that resonated with me, that we are a civilization with amnesia.
Yeah, we got knocked on the head, and we lost a lot. We lost a lot, and there is that haunting sense of incompleteness within so many of us that comes from that lost memory, I feel. It's like any amnesiac has a sense of something missing. The whole species has that.
I think what makes this really so potent is the fact that there are considerable implications for our own future.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that, how Graham wraps up the book really is about our future, and once now that we've integrated this information into our worldview, what does it imply in terms of where we go from here? Because one of the things that I track, and if you could throw this up on the screen for just a second, I'm going to speed through something really quick here so that you can kind of get the impression.
1989.
Let me just.
Giant asteroid makes close call by Earth.
While Randall's fixing that, let's also remind that we had a relatively close pass with a half-kilometer wide, actually bit of a comet just over Halloween.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that NASA only found that object on the 10th of October.
Right.
And it missed us. It passed about the distance of the moon from the Earth.
That's not that far.
That's not that far. But the key thing is that they only found it a few days before it passed.
Oh, God.
And how many other objects are out there?
And half a kilometer wide?
Half a kilometer wide. Yeah.
So the one that hit Tunguska was
100 meters. Tiny.
Jesus
tiny
Christ!
Yes.
It's freaking me out.
This is a minimum of 150 to 200 times the volume of Tunguska.
And when you look at the universe and just look at our galaxy, the size of our galaxy, look at our solar system, the size of our solar system, that is literally like getting grazed by a bullet. It's like getting grazed.
Absolutely.
And
clips
so
off a bit of your ear.
That's a good analogy.
It's a really good analogy. Yeah.
When you think about it, you say, well, a half a kilometer compared to the Earth, that's not big.
Oh.
But like when you think of a slug from a 32, right? If I threw it at you and hit you with it, it wouldn't do much. But if I accelerate it to 1,000 feet per second, it's going to cause extreme trauma, right? But now we're looking at these asteroids flying in comet debris, and they're 10 times, 20 times the speed of a rifle bullet when they hit our atmosphere. Like, 50, 60, 70,000 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And the kinetic punch of something like that is inconceivable. It's like Graham said. I mean, to talk about it, you'd have to take our entire nuclear arsenal of the peak of the Cold War, detonate it all at once, and even that would only be a fraction of the forces unleashed. Now watch this. I'm going to go through this real quick here, and you'll get the idea, I think, that where we're at, because astronomers are looking out into our cosmic environment, and this is what they're seeing. Look at this.
Well, let's explain
going back
this,
here,
most of us are listening, not
9
watching.
objects have come close to the Earth since 1991. Right?
Read that. Current
asteroid estimates are too low. This was
Way too
October
low.
of 2000.
Current predictions for the number of potentially dangerous asteroids have been underestimated by at least 20%, say astronomers. According to recent calculations, there are between 750 and 900 asteroids circling the Earth.
Yeah.
That number has changed.
Yes.
That report's from October 2000.
Yes.
We're now looking at, the estimates are now that it's 100,000 potentially Earth-destroying objects that are on Earth-crossing orbits. This is an estimate. The problem is NASA has only identified a tiny fraction of what's out there. And again, I'm not saying this because I want to spread gloom and doom. I'm saying this. I'm saying this because we have the capacity to do something about it.
Right.
It takes goodwill on the part of the human race to stop wasting money on stupid pursuits, particularly warfare, and to apply those resources to sweeping clean our cosmic environment. The technology already exists.
The Colonel's cooked up a new $10 bucket of the day just for you. Monday, 24 nuggets for $10. Tuesday, 8-piece fried chicken for $10. Wednesday, 10 wings for $10. Thursday, 8 tenders for $10. Friday, 24 nuggets for... Ooh, you guessed it, didn't you? $10. The $10 bucket of the day deal. Every weekday. Only at KFC. It's finger-licking good.
Prices and participation vary while supplies last. Not available on third-party ordering platforms. Tax extra.
The right window treatments change everything. Your sleep, your privacy, the way every room looks and feels. At Blinds.com, we've spent 30 years making it surprisingly simple to get exactly what your home needs. We've covered over 25 million windows and have 50,000 five-star reviews to prove we deliver. Whether you DIY it or want a pro to handle everything from measure to install, we have you covered. Real design professionals, free samples, zero pressure. Right now, get up to 50% off with minimum purchase, plus get a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
It's going to have to be. There's going to have to be a massive shift in our attention. Like there has to almost be an event.
Yes.
That takes place that makes people wake up.
Right. We have World Asteroid Day right now. Some prominent figures are behind it, like Brian May. I think he was one of the guitarists with Queen, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
There is publicity around so-called World Asteroid Day, but nobody's taking it seriously.
Well, we don't take anything seriously unless it smacks us. Like people don't quit cigarettes until they get cancer. There's something about human beings that we don't consider the possible. We have this idea in our head that we're eternal and we're going to live forever and everything's going to be fine. And I just need a new Lexus. You know what I mean? Like we have this wacky. I just need this watch that I've had my eye on, or this laptop that I want to buy. If something happened, if a massive collision hit China and wiped out like several million people and then caused the entire Earth to go into nuclear winter and crops died and we experienced global famine, then something like that, then we would wake up and go, all right, Russia, let's talk. Let's get together.
I'm hoping that it doesn't take anything quite that extreme. If
too.
we had a repeat of Tunguska in 1908, I think that would be enough to do it.
That would be nice. But would it be? Because there was this incident in Russia that was last year that was caught on all those dashboard cameras. What's a wonderful thing about Russia is apparently there's so much insurance crime and so many collisions with each other that a lot of people over in Russia have dash cams.
Okay, right. I was wondering why.
So because of those dash cams, that's how we have all this footage of these meteors that blew up in the atmosphere and didn't even land. But we have some from inside schools where people were watching like this thing happen and go down, and that was nothing.
And that was a fraction of the size of the Tunguska event.
Yeah.
But nobody was killed, you see. If that object had been a little bigger, if it's a little denser, its angle of approach had been a little steeper, you might have been looking at 1,500 deaths rather than just 1,500 injuries. I think that would have been a wake-up call, perhaps. Maybe not enough to reorient civilization, but I guarantee you a Tunguska event over a major inhabited area of the globe, wiping out 1 million people, I can't imagine that wouldn't have some kind of a effect on our attitude towards our vulnerability in the cosmos, and make people think maybe there's something bigger we need to be paying attention to here rather than Kardashian's
We've got to realize
butt.
we're not invulnerable. This is the illusion created by modern technology.
We need to make a war on asteroids, like we have a war on terror.
Congress just passed.
At least that would be a useful project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is to actually do something that could benefit and serve the human race instead of multiplying fear and hatred.
Well, see, that's the thing. These asteroids are actually extraordinary sources of resources, natural resources, platinum group metals and hydrocarbons and water and precious metals. All of these things that we're mining from the Earth now exist in those asteroids that are threatening the planet.
Right.
And we're not that far away from being able to develop the technologies and the industries to actually go and rendezvous with an asteroid. Of course, it's a matter of, like Graham was saying, I mean, this last Halloween asteroid, they didn't find it but a couple of weeks before it passed by the Earth. So we need a lot more capabilities of seeing what's out there.
Yeah.
And we're developing that, but at a very slow pace.
So there are practical suggestions that come out of all of this. This isn't just about the past, as Randall said. This is also about the future of the human race and what we do and how we live on this gorgeous planet that the universe gave us, and how we pay back for being given that opportunity.
And so the current ideas are to somehow or another nudge these asteroids out of the way.
There's about 10 different technologies to do it. What you don't really want to do is to blow it up with a nuclear bomb, because then you get buckshot instead of a single bullet.
Right.
And buckshot can do a lot of harm as well, and it may even push it into a more catastrophic orbit. So you don't want to do that. But what you can do, for example, is to change the reflectivity of one side of the asteroid or comet fragment. You can alter that, effectively paint it, and that affects the sun's radiation upon it, and that would be enough to shift it slightly out of its course. There are a lot of techniques and suggestions, or nudges. This is you put your finger on exactly the right word. This is another of the technologies that you just nudge these things. You just don't need to do much, and you put them into a safe place instead of a dangerous place.
Such a bizarre idea that there's hundreds of thousands of killers out there.
Yeah.
You just have to, excuse me, just move over there, please.
Yeah.
A little bit of this.
Yeah.
And then also we have to look out for all of them. The ones that are coming from down there, the ones that are coming from up here.
Three-dimensional space.
That's what we really have to think of, because when we look at the sky, I hope an asteroid's not coming our way. Well, from where, fucker? You know, this thing is crazy.
And is it coming from the direction of the sun so that we can't see it except with very special cameras?
And that was the case with Tunguska. It came out of, in fact, if you read the eyewitness accounts, they describe how it looks like it was being disgorged from the sun or being expelled from the sun. It was like a second sun in the sky. And that was because that summertime torrids stream is coming from behind the sun.
Yeah.
And and so, you can't see them.
Because of the gravity of the sun, the mass of the sun, doesn't that affect how we see things behind it anyway?
Yeah, it should do.
It warps
time
our
space.
vision.
Yeah.
So like something could be coming from behind the sun, and we literally would not even see it because of the mass and gravity of the sun if it was in the right area.
Yeah, Tunguska was not seen really until it came into the atmosphere.
But that was obviously a long time ago, and there was not nearly as much observation of the skies as there are today, right?
These are the steps that we need to take. We need to grow up as a species. We need to leave our childhood behind. It's interesting to speculate what would happen if we had impacts on the scale that happened 12,800 years ago. And I'm pretty sure that it would mean, if it were allowed to happen, that it would mean the end of our civilization.
Yes.
This civilization would go down. This is a very intensely specialized civilization. I think the just-in-time principle is that we have 2-day or 3-day food supply in our cities. You interrupt that, and you have a kind of Walking Dead scenario within a week. You know, it's that bad. This civilization appears to be very strong, but in fact it's very fragile, and it could easily fall apart. And so many of us in the Western technological world actually have no survival skills whatsoever. We don't know how to survive because we depend for our survival upon the complex network of society. Who would survive a cataclysm like that would be the hunter-gatherers. People like the hunter-gatherers of the Kalahari in southern Africa, or the hunter-gatherers of the Amazon basin, the meek of the world, those who are not taken into account in the world at all today. They're the ones equipped both with the knowledge and the psychological resources to deal with a situation like that and to carry the human story forward. And I just want to make sure, if I can play some part in this, I just want to make sure that the descendants of those hunter-gatherers 10,000 years in the future are not remembering faintly and vaguely a great lost civilization, a magical civilization which had the ability to go to the moon, which had the ability to, one person could speak to another person on the other side of the planet, magical powers, which was destroyed because of its own arrogance and cruelty. And that lost civilization, of course, would be us.
Well, one of the things that's been disturbing me as I got older is the idea of print about books. It's sort of going away, and everything is becoming digital, and digital to the form that you can only read with an operating system and a computer and a CPU and all that jazz. Without all that, it's nothing. It's nothing. You look at a hard drive; it's just there's nothing there.
It's just electrons. Yeah. Take away the software, and it'll never be read again.
Yeah, and what evidence would there be 1,000 years from now of us if something were to happen?
Yeah, there might be some. We'd know they were computer disks, but the descendants of that time would have no idea what they were, and even if they did, they'd have no way of accessing them.
And 1,000 years from now, they would deteriorate to nothing anyway.
To nothing. All the plastic would be gone. Everything would just be a complete mess.
Well, that's why I look at megalithic stone architecture as being a textbook.
Yeah,
that's how you might preserve things.
Exactly.
And another way you might preserve things, if you developed a mythology around this whole scenario, and then you projected it onto the night sky, so that generations later they would tell these tales based upon the mythological figures juxtaposed on the night sky, and there would be the story. Because it's there. It's all the whole mythos, Western mythology, has been juxtaposed onto the fixed stars, and so that's one way, perhaps, of preserving information. And the other way, I think, is massive stone architecture.
So it's clearly not an accident that the Great Pyramid encodes the dimensions of our planet.
Yes,
it encodes them. You measure the base perimeter of the Great Pyramid and multiply it by 43,200. And you get the equatorial circumference of the Earth.
Why that number, though? Why 43?
Well, that's the key thing, and I'll come to that in a second, if I may. You take the height of the Great Pyramid, multiply that by 43,200, and you get the polar radius of the Earth. Actually, Egyptologists know this, but they say it's a complete coincidence, because what's the significance of the number 43,200? But actually, it's a highly significant number. It's a number that is found embedded in mythology all around the world, and it is a multiple of the number 72. It's actually 600 times 72, and 72 is the heartbeat of the precessional cycle. 1 degree of change every 72 years. So what they've actually done is they've given us the dimensions of our planet on a scale defined by a motion of the planet itself. And that, in my view, is an incredibly clever way to pass information down to the future. That way they could be sure that any astronomically literate society could work this out. The information would be there. So in all those dark ages, when we had no knowledge that we even lived on a planet or what its dimensions were, those dimensions were encoded into the enduring structure of the Great Pyramid, a monument, as the Arabs say, that time itself would fear.
The Great Pyramids themselves, the Great Pyramid of Giza in particular, is so spectacular. Amazing. That it almost makes you go, well, man, there had to be something going on. We must be missing part of this picture, because you're talking about something that would be. I've heard people say we could reproduce it today. Of course we could. Of course we could. We can. Can you make a stone that's the size of one of the stones in the Great Pyramid? Yes. Yeah. Well, then we can make the pyramid. But how long would it take?
Yeah.
How hard would it be?
And where would be the will?
And you'd have to be perfect.
Yeah.
In order to get it to line up at the top the way it sets right now.
Exactly.
You can't be off by a fraction of an inch.
Otherwise, you have a corkscrew instead of a pyramid. That's the whole problem. No, it's an amazing device, a multifunctional device, in my view, in encoding knowledge, but also working on human consciousness. I've had the privilege to be alone inside the Great Pyramid, not surrounded by hundreds of others. And as the silence descends, this sense of intelligence seems to come out from the walls. Something is speaking to you there, and I think that partly what it was designed to do was to affect human consciousness, and in a weird way it's still doing so. It's
just
still
with
beckoning
its
people.
majestic structure just being so magnificent and incredible that you just go, whoa.
But also the sensory deprivation element, you know, that you're inside the so-called king's chamber, which had nothing to do with any king, this amazing granite geometrical room 300 feet above the ground in the heart of the Great Pyramid. As that silence descends, you feel this monument begin to speak to you. It's almost like it's shy. Put 50 people in there and the dialogue goes away. Be in there alone, listen to the silence, and it starts to speak.
Wow, that's amazing. It's just, it's such a special thing that we have, this area where you can see these ancient structures and causes your mind to wander and think about these things and these possibilities. And when you add that to all the information that you guys have accumulated over the course of your study and your research, it's just an amazing, amazing thing to consider.
I should mention another site, which we've not talked about today, which is Gunung Padang in Indonesia. And again, I have a couple of chapters on this in the new book. Gunung Padang is a man-made pyramid, and it's been found about 3 hours drive west of Bandung on the island of Java. And for a long time, it was thought to be a relatively young megalithic site. There is a megalithic site on top of what was thought to be a natural hill. But now, an amazing Indonesian geologist called Danny Hillman Natawijaja has been over it with his team. They've done ground-penetrating radar and seismic tomography on the whole structure, and they've also put drill cores down into it, and they have pulled up remnants of man-made material associated with datable organic material that goes back 20,000 years. It goes back right into the last ice age. This is a 20,000-year-old pyramid that's sitting in Indonesia, and it's one of the most exciting breaking stories in archaeology. And typically, because the discovery work has been done by a geologist, Indonesian archaeologists are wanting the whole work stopped.
So this is it right here?
That's not Gunung Padang. No.
It says it
but
is?
those are Gunung Padang. So for example, third from the left. I mean that one. Yeah. That's the known megalithic site on top of what is now understood to be a completely man-made pyramid.
So this is accepted only by geologists, not by archaeologists?
Yeah, the archaeologists say, oh, we know that site. It's 2,500 years old. There's nothing of interest there. We would like the resources that are being spent on this to be spent on our projects instead. And in fact, they've lobbied with the Indonesian government, and the excavations have been temporarily halted. I think that it will go ahead again. I think
what is the evidence that shows? What's the geological evidence that shows that this is?
First of all, the ground-penetrating radar, the picture of what is inside this, shows us that it is a man-made hill, not a natural hill. Secondly, that it contains 3 large chambers within it. One of them at least as large as the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. Huge cavities, regular in shape, which have not yet been excavated. And thirdly, that the date of this site puts us back to 20,000 years, right to the last glacial maximum, when Indonesia didn't look at all the way it looks today. Indonesia 20,000 years ago was part of a giant continent that geologists call Sundaland, the Sunda Shelf. It wasn't a peninsula, the Malaysian peninsula and the 1,000 islands of Indonesia. It was a massive landmass, and that landmass was submerged predominantly between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago. This site sits in an area of high land which was never submerged, and it looks to me, again I'm speculating because the excavation has been stopped, but it looks to me, as does Gobekli Tepe, like a time capsule, something that takes us back to that earlier period. And in fact, when we're looking for a lost civilization, I think we should be looking all over the world. Plato made it clear that Atlantis wasn't just the island. It had projected its power all around the world. Indonesia is a very fruitful area for further investigation, and I did a huge research trip in Indonesia, and I saw megaliths that are just unaccounted for. The archaeology has never been done. There's a giant megalithic culture in that island, and it's very cool. Some cultures on Indonesia are still making megaliths today. They're still doing it. It continues this ancient tradition.
So when we're looking at this, what are you guys seeing? I'm seeing a hill. I'm seeing a bunch of rocks.
Yeah, that bunch of rocks is the known megalithic site, which has correctly been dated to 2,500 years ago.
But when you say megalithic site,
this is a material called columnar basalt, which forms naturally, by the way, into regular patterns. The Giant's Causeway in Ireland is columnar basalt. Columnar basalt, when it forms naturally, forms in vertical formations. It's a very useful building material. It can be broken up into blocks, and when you see them laid out horizontally like this, you know absolutely that human beings have been involved and that they have made this site. But what's really interesting is what's underneath what we're seeing there, what's been revealed by the ground-penetrating radar and the drill cores. That is really fascinating, because that has not been taken into account by archaeology at all, and that's where we need to do this work. If we're going to recover our lost past, Indonesia is one of the places we need to be doing it.
So to someone like me that's looking at this, I'm just seeing a bunch of stones.
Yeah, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, so... but
2,500-year-old site. But what it appears to be the case that site was put there because there was an ancient memory that this was a sacred site. The name Gunung Padang in the Indonesian language doesn't seem to mean very much. It means mountain field. But in the Sundanese language, which is the language that is spoken around Gunung Padang, what Gunung Padang means is mountain of enlightenment.
Whoa.
Suggestion that it's connected to an ancient system of knowledge. It's one of many sites that are appearing around the world now that don't fit with the mainstream picture.
So this sort of parallels some of the ideas about the old kingdom in Egypt and the ancient structures where the new structures are built on top of them. And as they dig deeper into the sand, they find different construction methods that represent an older time.
Exactly.
But this is 20,000 years old underneath this?
Yeah. That's right.
Wow. And what can we? Is there any images that we could look at, or is there anything that we could see other than this?
I have a lot in the book. I'm not sure
what is
where to
that
grab it.
image above it? That's an artist rendition. What it used to look like.
That's an absolute artist rendition, which I don't value. That almost takes the form of misinformation.
Okay.
We need to be looking at the real thing. That painting, you have your cursor just on it. Just click
right
on
there?
that. That is an artist's interpretation of what Gunung Padang would have looked like in its original form
20,000 years ago.
before it became overgrown.
That is the mind blower. Then, if this 20,000 years ago, if this actually existed, this gigantic megalithic structure that was created by human beings, advanced civilization beyond a shadow of a doubt, 20,000 years ago.
Yeah,
that's a deal breaker.
And in an area that was devastated by the global floods of 12,800 years ago, and that became completely different from how it was before that.
What was the area that had that gigantic super volcano detonation 70,000 years ago?
Mount Toba. That's another Indonesian story. Yeah,
and that is Indonesia, and that is literally where a massive amount of the population of the Earth, of human beings, was wiped out.
It may have been that the human
ago.
population went down to just 2,000 individuals.
Jesus Christ. That's like a good comedy show for me, like a theater. Imagine that. Like, everyone in my show has to repopulate the fucking Earth.
Sometimes our species hangs by a thread. Sometimes we hang by a thread. That was one of those times.
That is crazy. The idea that just the Earth can have a hiccup. And that's not even an asteroid. That's the Earth itself.
That's
just
the Earth
spits
itself.
up.
Belching. Yeah.
Belches, destroys the environment to the point where it creates nuclear winter, kills all the crops, most of the animals die, and 2,000 people scratch and claw their way to existence. Wow. And only 70,000 years ago, so 50,000 years before this. So 50,000. So there's been a series of these.
Yes, there have been a series of these, and we as a species have kind of danced in and out of them, and from time to time they have radically changed our story.
Our hubris in creating hard drives and flash drives and computers and phones, and no one remembers anything. I maybe know 4 phone numbers.
Yeah, we don't use the power of memory anymore.
And we don't write anything down in anything that's going to survive any sort of a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
that's where the systems like Freemasonry come in, because here you have a body of symbolism that's been handed down at least since the Middle Ages, and you have a lot of currently active Masons who, in order to become Master Masons, have to memorize a tremendous amount of information. Most of them don't have a clue as to what it means, though, even though they're told right in the ritual, if you want to understand this, you have to understand astronomy, first of all. You have to understand geometry and a number of other things, but a tremendous amount of memory work is involved. And this is the ancient system. The oral traditions involved memory on a massive scale, being able to recite verbatim things that might take you hours to recite. And we, like you guys have just discussed, we're losing that ability. And this is, to me, it's regrettable that Freemasonry has gotten such a bad rep with all of these silly conspiratorial things in the age of the internet.
I can't tell you how many times on Facebook or the internet somebody, and they express it as an accusation.
Yeah.
Graham Hancock is a Freemason. Well, first off, I'm not a Freemason. I've never been a Freemason, and I never will be a Freemason because I'm not a joiner. I don't join clubs. My job is to write books, and if I join a particular club, that's going to compromise my ability to do that. I have given lectures in Masonic lodges. I've been invited to give lectures there, and I'm very interested to talk to Masons. But I'm not a Mason myself, and it is strange that there is this idea that Freemasonry is connected to some kind of global conspiracy. I think it's much more complicated and much more interesting than that.
Well, it's an ancient, like as you said, an ancient way of sort of storing and passing down knowledge and ideas. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of wacky people that are involved in it too.
Most of them are in
Some
it for
of
the
them.
beer.
Yeah,
frankly.
the beer.
Yeah, but Freemasonry is largely a male drinking club.
Maybe I'm in then. Maybe I need to find these people.
Actually, maybe that's in the UK. In the US, there's no drinking in the lodges.
Not in the
allowed?
lodges, not
No,
in the lodge
not in-
itself, but afterwards.
Okay, I'm out.
There's a lot of alcohol goes down.
I was in, now I'm out.
Yeah.
Well, drinking does mess with your memory, though, so I see the
But
point.
there is a tremendous body of symbolism in there, which I think is critical to understanding a lot of these ancient mysteries.
And has ancient origins.
Well, it's one of the things that's so confusing about our money, right? And so conspiratorially constantly debated about the origins of the symbolism on our money. The pyramid with the eyeball on top of it, and there's so many theories as to what this means and that means. And look at the way they structured Washington D.C. and where the Pentagon is, and where all these different buildings are this is all Mason stuff, and they want to take over the world. And I don't know. But it's
who knows really. I think
fascinating.
what's important about it is that it's a system of ideas that definitely has very ancient origins. We're seeing a modern manifestation of it now, but it tracks back a long way into the past. And this shows that ideas can be passed down below the radar and can survive and can continue.
Well, the eyeball on top of the pyramid, man, I would love to go back to the dude who created the dollar bill and go, what are you doing here?
What the fuck is that?
How come you just don't say $1, and have the dude's face and we're
Absolutely.
good, right? Why do you have to have a pyramid with an eyeball?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I wonder what it meant to them. What is it supposed to symbolize?
Well, I think it means the same thing that it meant to the ancient Egyptians. We find the Eye of Horus, or
It's very
Well,
Egyptian
doesn't
symbol.
the Eye of Horus represent the pineal gland?
That's a
And
good argument. It actually looks
Mm-hmm.
like the pineal gland.
from a side profile, it looks exactly like
absolutely
it.
looks like it. And we know that DMT was available in ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptian tree of life is Acacia nilotica, which is rich in DMT in its bark.
Well, that's also the tree that they're considering, that modern Jerusalem scholars have attached to Moses and the burning bush.
Exactly.
The burning bush being the source of divinity, the source of God, of divine knowledge, God being a burning bush, and that bush being the acacia tree. The acacia tree being rich in DMT. I mean, it only makes sense if you try to break it down and translate it. If anybody who's done DMT knows what a profound and life-changing experience it can be, and how there is this feeling when you do it that you are connecting to some sort of divine entity.
We have to look at this image.
Okay,
that
sure.
I've got.
What do you got?
Jamie put it up there. Well, it's a typical.
Whoa.
You find this in all kinds of Masonic.
That's spooky.
It's a dude giving a chick a haircut.
Well,
he's got wings.
You see, what you have here is a juxtaposition of different symbols, and they all have an interpretation, right? You see the old man, Father Time, but he holds the sickle.
Father
right?
Time also has wings. How do you get wings?
Wings. Well,
Time flies.
What?
Time flies.
Time flies. Yeah. Well,
How dare you?
You notice the hourglass. You'll notice the hourglass, right?
Okay, the hourglass by the sickle. I see.
Okay, and the sickle is a symbol for the comet. I'm going to go ahead and
a comet?
Spill some. Yes,
oh,
and I can show you how that works. You know, the word comet comes from the Latin cometa or cometa, which means what? Long hair. Right?
You've got the hair, Randall.
Long hair.
Long-haired star. Randall actually looks a bit like a comet.
Well,
so as you're looking at the star in the sky and you see the tail, they think of that as the hair of the comet?
Yes, exactly. So what you have there is the long hair. Right there, that's a signal right there that's
okay.
a reference. And I can show you a couple of other things to show.
Father Time is going bald. What's all that about?
Yeah. Well, he's making up for it with his,
boldness.
Making for it with his whiskers, yeah. But you'll notice what she holds in her right hand, the sprig of acacia.
Yeah.
And what she holds, and so in the Masonic symbolism, acacia represents resurrection, represents restoration after. In the Masonic allegory, you have the death of the master builder and the raising of the master builder. And the symbolism for this, whether it ultimately, I think, goes back to the death and resurrection of Osiris and the death and resurrection of all of these god figures in history, which could be taken
dying
as,
and resurrecting gods. Yeah,
the dying and resurrecting gods, which could be taken as a metaphor, really, for the God standing in for the human species, for human civilization. And she's actually weeping. She's holding in her left hand a ciborium, which was a symbol from alchemy. And in the Masonic sense, it's in that container that she's holding that the alchemy takes place, which you might speculate is maybe the extraction of the DMT from the acacia.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It looks almost like one of those incense holders. You know, you get an incense cone, you put it in, you put the lid on that, and the incense comes through that.
Right.
And she's looking at a book.
And she's looking at a book, right? And then the book is sitting on a broken column. The broken column, actually, what that represents is very well depicted in this next image here, which was basically the destruction of the lost civilization. And that's what she's weeping over, see? And she's holding the acacia because that's the symbol of resurrection.
Right.
How civilization is then renewed, phoenix-like, out of the ashes of the previous one.
Out of drugs.
Yeah.
Maybe assisted. Maybe with some assistance there.
Little help.
Yeah. So you see there, and then when you go back to this, see, it's all there. And once you begin to understand the symbolism of this, you can begin to read it just like a book or a manuscript almost, you see. And there we see the 19th century depiction of, the destruction of civilization by
a comet.
By a comet, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. And
absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Boy,
sure.
There's a lot of work in that. Is this a universal description, like the way or interpretation of what you're saying? Does everyone agree on this?
No. In fact, basically, most of them will look at it and really not really understand.
They go, "Wow, that's pretty."
But in many different cultures, a comet is the long-haired star.
It looks like
sometimes it's the cosmic serpent. Sometimes it's a serpent.
Sometimes it's a serpent.
Yeah.
It looks like an old dude that's creeping on a young girl who's trying to read. Like, she's trying to read. He's trying to give her a back massage. He's kind of being creepy. That's what it looks like.
That's kind of what it looks like,
dude.
Well, here we have, this is a 19th century Masonic carpet. Now, you'll notice several things on here. What do you see up on the right?
A comet.
A comet.
Yeah.
Yes. And immediately to the left of the comet, you have a lunar crescent, and then you have the 7 stars. And what does the 7 stars usually depict? The Pleiades.
Yeah, which are part of the Taurus constellation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you superimpose the radiant of the Taurid meteor shower, it almost bullseyes right on the Pleiades.
Right on the Pleiades.
And you find the Pleiades playing an important part in not only the Masonic ritual, but in many traditions from the ancient world.
Traditions. They're even clearly depicted in the Hall of Bulls in Lascaux in France, 17,000 years ago, a depiction of the constellation of Taurus with the Pleiades clearly marked on the shoulder of the bull. So anybody who argues that there was no ancient knowledge of the zodiacal constellations, go to Lascaux, and you'll realize there was.
Wow. And you'll notice down here, there's the Ark, which, of course, is symbolizing the Great Flood. And you've got a lot of things going on here. You've got the coffin with the acacia growing out of it, which again is symbolizing this resurrection after the death.
So that one plant plays an important role over and over and over.
Plays a very important role.
Yes.
It's just, I mean, it can't be coincidental that
The role of
that's a
DMT
plant.
in human culture has been radically underestimated and misunderstood by our scholars.
Is there any depictions in the ancient world of utilization of DMT, of smoking it, of
There's many depictions of an ancient Egyptian figure holding some kind of pipe. And now that we know that Acacia nilotica is a DMT-rich tree, and that ancient Egyptians certainly had the chemical knowledge to extract the DMT from that bark, the very word chemistry actually comes from the name of ancient Egypt, which was Kemet, the black land. That's where we get the word chemistry from. Whoa. We can be pretty sure what they were smoking. There is a particular scene, by the way, where we see another visionary agent, the datura plant. Rays in the form of datura flowers are descending into the brow, into the third eye of the initiate in that image. The imagery is all there. You just have to dig it out and look for it and look for it with eyes that are willing to see. That's the crucial thing.
I've never seen the Egyptian hieroglyphs of them holding a pipe.
Oh yeah, there's many.
See if you can find any, Jamie. Do you see any?
Yeah.
Wow. So what are we looking at here, Randall?
Oh, just another version of these old Masonic carpets. But the thing that you'd want to look at here.
What the beehive thing in the lower left-hand corner there?
Yeah.
That seems to be over and over again. You see
over
that?
and over again, yeah.
Why a beehive? Is it a beehive?
It's a beehive, yeah.
It is. Mm-hmm. So is it supposed to represent like beekeeping, and is a form of agriculture? Or?
I'll fill you in on that someday.
Bees were a symbol of royalty in ancient Egypt as well. You find them all over the Temple of Karnak, for example.
In the Masonic context, it has a very interesting connotation, which would be probably beyond what we could get into.
It's another
today.
show.
It's another
a
show.
whole other show on bees. Does it? I mean, when you look at it's one of the main concerns that we have today is that our cell phone signals and a lot of the pesticides that we're using are killing off bees.
Sure.
The cell phone signals are apparently like really confusing bees and messing them up, and the Wi-Fi and all the waves, radio waves and different things in the atmosphere interfere with their communication. But then on top of that, the pesticides we're putting on crops and all these things, and then there's diseases that bees are getting.
Sure.
We have a serious problem with the honeybee population.
I know,
and
absolutely.
To have that as a big part of their culture, to have bees as a big part of their culture.
Says something, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what you're superficially told in the Masonic ritual is that bees are a symbol of industry. But when you're beginning to look into it, the beehive itself is interesting architecturally.
Right.
Because what it does, it has the maximum volume to weight ratio virtually of any structure. But there's other considerations there as well, which again is another show. But if you look carefully, right up in here, you'll notice there's a twin comet, twin stars. You see the tails? And you'll notice that you know that comets, their tails are always pointing away from the sun. They're not like trails behind, like the wake of a boat. They're pointing away from the sun, you see. And if you look at this, you see you've got the sun right here, and you've got these moving away. The heart is a symbol for the earth. The sword is another symbol for the comet.
So all of this mystery surrounds us, and all of it takes us back to a time that we've forgotten, and we need to know about that time. We need to recover our memory. The human species is in a kind of broken state right now, psychologically. You can see it in the world. There's this miasma of hatred and fear and suspicion that are just enveloping the whole world, and we are being divided artificially from one another when truly we are all brothers and sisters, and we need to recover that knowledge if we're to move forward to the future. And on that note, I also want to thank you for another thing, Joe, which is for smoking me up last September.
reintroducing marijuana into your life?
I had 3 years of abstinence from marijuana, and that abstinence ended when we sat down for our last chat, September 2014.
Well, you seem so healthy. I'm like, I don't think pot's the problem.
No,
I
it's
really
not the
don't.
problem.
No.
What's happened is I've completely changed my relationship to that beautiful and magical herb. It's not a dependent relationship anymore. It's not an obsessional relationship. If I have it, I enjoy it. If I don't have it, I enjoy my life anyway.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a drug counselor, and last night he was telling me a story. He's also a comedian, and last night he was telling me a story. Court McGowan, great guy, and he was telling me a story about this kid that he's trying to help. He said I had never met a marijuana addict before. And he met this kid, and this kid was smoking just massive amounts of marijuana. He's trying to help him in this clinic. And he realized along the way it has nothing to do with the marijuana. Like he's got some crazy psychological issue that's going on, and the marijuana just happens to be the thing he's using to try to fill up,
to medicate that.
Yeah, it's not that he has this physical addiction that's impossible to.
There is no physical addiction.
No.
If the marijuana wasn't there, he'd find something else.
Yes, that's what it is. And then when he dug deep into it, this poor kid has just a devastating childhood, and there's all sorts of issues psychologically.
Always the case with addiction.
Yes.
It's the pain in the individual that's the source of it, not the substance. That's
we can all. I think we could all relate to a certain amount of madness, and I know I certainly can, because I think we're all capable of going down spirals and paths, and then that the concept of hitting rock bottom. Like sometimes you have to hit something where you can't continue your momentum and you must regroup. And in that regrouping, you reassess or reevaluate. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so addicted to sensory deprivation tanks.
Yeah.
Because that's my regrouping.
It's an amazing place to regroup, and thank you for introducing me to that as well.
I am so grateful that there's people out there that have continued that tradition of building those things, from the Samadhi tanks from the early 60s, from John Lilly to today, Crash and the Float Lab and the Zero Gravity in Austin. I mean, they've done some amazing work in making sure these things are up to date and the most modern technology as far as filtration systems and insulation, and now they're magical. I mean,
absolutely. And
you went to Crash, right?
I went to Crash,
the Float Lab,
and I had a
He's
fantastic experience there.
I love
and
that
I have
guy.
to say, I'm really thinking about putting one of those in my house.
Do it.
Yeah.
Everybody should. If you, I mean, God, man, I
and
think
as you
it's
say,
so
with some
important.
edibles, that's the way to.
Yes,
that's the way
that
to
is the way.
to enjoy the experience to the maximum, to get the maximum benefit out of the experience.
It's intensely psychedelic with edibles.
Exactly. I'm really encouraged by what's happening in America, that we are seeing the legalization of cannabis, that the American people, state by state, are just putting their finger up to the federal authority and saying, we are adults, we have a right to decide what we do with our own bodies and our own consciousness. And there is that air of freedom now in Washington State, in Oregon, up there in Alaska, in Colorado. And this is part of my book tour that I'm really looking forward to when I go present an event in Seattle, which I'll do in early December, and in Portland, Oregon, and in Denver, and in Boulder.
I'm in Denver Saturday night. I couldn't be more excited to get there. I'm so pumped. I can't wait to get there.
It's a great place.
It's a point of freedom, and it's also a point of prosperity.
Yes.
Denver has they have exceeded their what they had in terms of their expectations for how much money they were going to make out of this in terms of tax revenue. It's gone through the roof. This is the first time ever they make more money from taxes in marijuana than alcohol.
Exactly.
Which is fucking crazy.
There
if
you
you
go.
look around Colorado, you see how many bars there are, how many liquor stores, how many restaurants that are serving booze. They make more money in taxes from marijuana than they do from all of that.
Let's face it, marijuana is a far superior substance to
Far
alcohol.
superior.
Alcohol's
but they're
a
still
horrible
selling
poison.
booze. It's not hurting the booze business.
It's not hurting the booze business,
Violent crime is down. Drunk driving is to the lowest level it's been in decades.
Amazing.
I mean, the whole thing is incredible.
It's a very positive story.
Real estate's gone up.
And what
Everything's
Colorado
incredible.
is proving to the world is that the emperor of the war on drugs wears no clothes.
Absolutely.
The war on drugs is bullshit
It is.
from beginning to end, and it's a grotesque abuse of the right of adults to make decisions about their own bodies and their own consciousness. So right on with Colorado and the American people who are making this happen. Only in America could this breakthrough take place. It's true that America as a state entity has been a dark force behind the war on drugs, but the American people, state by state, are unraveling that horror and replacing it with something new. This could never happen in Britain. I mean, we have counties in Britain like Yorkshire or Northumberland. I can't envisage a situation ever where Yorkshire would make marijuana legal when London says no. But in America, you can do it. And this is going to change the world. It's not because of marijuana itself. That's not the point. It's not about getting high. It's about respecting the right of adults to make decisions about their own bodies, their own health, and their own consciousness. That is a fundamental human right. And we're beginning to realize that that's exactly what's been taken away from us by the war on drugs.
I think it's also about making decisions based on data. And I think in a way that parallels what you guys are up to.
Yeah.
Because I think people are understanding now that we've been sold a bill of goods by these so-called experts about marijuana.
Lies. They've told us so many lies.
Nonsense. And not only that, the politicians have hired experts to review the data and then buried it when it didn't meet their expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have to confess that all of this with me started back in the old days when I was camping in these canyon lands in the western states and altering my consciousness and looking at the landscape and going, something is going on here. There's a story here that is wanting to come out, and I think that we have the potential literally to almost time travel with some of these substances and peer into the past and see it in ways that we would have never seen otherwise.
And not literally, but like get a sense in your mind, a new perspective, a fresh view. You were talking about it the last time you were here, that you were on acid, right? Is that what it was?
Acid and peyote, mostly the two.
A little bit of this,
a little bit of that.
Yeah. But spending, a lot of time out, hiking and camping, from Minnesota to the Pacific Ocean and all those northwestern states. I spent months out there, just hanging in the landscape, living in tents up on mountaintops and thinking about what was I seeing, and that's really where it started for me. And I think that combining, this immersion into the landscape, you're talking about the sensory deprivation, which is a way to powerfully go in. At the same time, you can have the counterpart of that, which is powerfully going out and seeing the night sky in this altered state, seeing the landscapes around you and realizing that a hill isn't just a hill. There's a story there. There's some process that we have to come to reckon with in order to understand this planet we're living on.
I think there's an interesting point here, which is that part of the technological world is to regard nature as matter as dead. That there's just this dead. We're the only consciousness on the planet in the universe, and they refuse to consider the possibility that nature may be highly conscious and highly intelligent. That there may be intelligence in nature, and it seems to me what the psychedelics are nature's way of speaking to us when we've closed our minds and shut ourselves down, when we've taken the soul out of the universe and just turned it into a huge machine. The psychedelics are coming back and saying, hang on, you monkeys don't know everything. Listen to us. We got something to teach.
And with that, we just ran through 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's it. How crazy is that? That was 3 hours. It seems like it was 20 minutes. It was probably more than 3 hours, right? We overtime? We're over. Listen, thank you so much. Graham Hancock, Magicians of the Gods. You can get it right now on Amazon. What is your website again?
GrahamHancock.com.
GrahamHancock.com. Sacred Geometry International. Sacred Geometry INT, I believe, is your Twitter handle. Is that what it is?
I think that's right.
I'll check right now real quick. Yes, Sacred Geometry, Sacred Geo INT.
Okay.
And Randall, thank you so much.
Mine has got an annoying double underscore between the Graham and the Hancock.
Well, you can find it, folks.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
If you go to my